Hey, Vic.
Hi, Eric.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine. Why don't you tell us what you're looking to solve?
Okay, Eric. So I'm not quite ready for retirement, but I have friends that are in that process, starting or about to start in a few, maybe a year or two. And some of them are considering annuities. But when I watch your videos and so forth in regards to retirement planning, I hardly ever see annuities being recommended as a tool for retirement planning. Is there a place for annuities in the overall retirement planning, horizon, as if you will?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I almost made an annuity video 2 weeks ago. I would have loved to do it actually. I don't really know exactly why. If is it okay if I ask you a quick question or two just to
Sure.
understand your interests? Is this
Mhm.
partly because you have friends who have had good or bad experiences with them, or you're
Absolutely.
wondering for yourself, like, how should I consider this? And maybe just share
Both.
a little bit of the context of your own experience with
Both. I
that.
have friends who have already contracted on annuities, and you know, they talk to me about it. I used to be I used to be a licensed annuity and insurance agent a long time ago. So I've given them a little bit of advice, but I like to hear second opinions, current opinions on the topic. So that's really the reason
Sure.
why.
Okay. Okay. That's helpful. Yeah. I mean, I'll just share my opinion, in where they fit. I think every financial planning is kind of more art than science. So everyone has opinions, and there's a lot of ways to like make retirement work. I think there's definitely a possible place for annuities. There are trade offs to annuities as there are to everything, in my opinion. The primary element that I think this is understandable to most people and obvious in most cases. The annuity is a psychological trade off, which is a bid for certainty, where someone's willing to give up flexibility. Because I think that's like always the spectrum that we're thinking on. If you think about like what is the S&P 500, it's a bid for flexibility with a willingness to trade off or limit their certainty, if that makes sense. And then the
Yes.
riskier the asset, the more willing someone is to give up certainty in exchange for flexibility. So I think annuities, I'm kind of like tool agnostic. I think annuities definitely have a place for the right type of person. I think there's probably fewer people as a total cohort that they are well applied to than the amount of people who either purchase them or are convinced to purchase them, let's say. But I understand, but I think that the main part is like it's understandable because the psychological desire for certainty leads to and that product is like a very natural fit for that desire for certainty. And there's a lot more we could go into, I'm sure, and you can feel free to interrupt me and ask me anything. But I don't know if that directly addresses your question, and I don't think it does exactly, but that's kind of broadly how I think about it.
Yes. Thank you for your feedback. So two of the uh, branches that I've mentioned when talking to my friend is like potential reduce growth on the expectation. I mean, there's really typically not is there not inflation adjusted, right? And also
Yeah.
there's really not a legacy after your survivor, pass away. So on the growth, I mean, would you put all your eggs in one basket, or what is there a nice threshold or ratio that you would put in annuities if you had an overall portfolio? You have any ideas or suggestions on that?
Yeah, I have had some thoughts. I mean, again, it is very personal. It really depends on someone's mix of, and you'll see this in a lot of my videos. The unique blend of income sources someone has mixed with their asset composition is ultimately what determines what we would recommend. I think pe- annuities, in my opinion, are can be useful for people that would otherwise have done something like, if you're familiar with this concept called like liability matching. So basically, it's typically for higher wealth individuals where they might have put a certain amount of wealth that is directly responsible for sources of income for a predetermined period of time that they don't want to experience any volatility with,
Mm,
because they want absolute certainty they can achieve
certainty.
it. But the trade off there is they have enough wealth that making that trade doesn't hinder any of their other goals around flexibility for spending, access to liquidity for things like long term care or future large expenses, or legacy goals. Does that make sense? That's
Yes.
like, in my experience, the most appropriate section, and it typically is for people with more wealth. The irony is that people with more wealth tend to be more comfortable with less certainty because they have like margin of error, if that makes
The
sense. The
sources. Yes.
typical market for annuities are actually the lower wealth market, which, and I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I just think when we have less money, we tend to want more certainty. But oftentimes it's not really actually a great trade because we remove our flexibility and the types of things that would, in my opinion, ruin let's say a $300,000 savings or a $500,000 savings retirement, which is not a small amount of wealth by any means, but
Mhm.
the types of things that ruin those are large one-time expenses. And if you don't have if you don't have like liquidity, if your money's locked up in an annuity, for instance, yes, you have guaranteed payments for a certain period of time, but how do you handle those types of things? And they can really cause you some stress, I think. So I don't know if that answers your question any more directly, but that cohort with high wealth, looking for certainty over predetermined timeframes where they have the ability to make that trade-off is, I'd say, where I would most often see it applied appropriately.
And in regards to the ratio of how much you should put in that
That's
bucket,
tough.
if
Yeah, I think I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to, but I think it's just I think that's personal. It's
yeah,
about
okay.
how much income you want to see as a predictable guaranteed source.
Yes.
It's about longevity expectations or maybe other asset sources and kind of like how you think about that mix. I'd say it's more of like a jigsaw puzzle
Mm.
than like a checkers game. Like it's not linear. Um I don't think I have a good off the cuff answer. I wish I did. Actually,
Fair enough,
part of
fair
it,
enough.
well,
Appreciate
candidly,
it.
part of this I haven't given it enough thought to say like what's the right framework. Partly because it's not frequent enough, even in my practice. If that makes sense, we work with hundreds of clients, but I still don't see the right person with the right framework with the right application where it's like we've got tens or hundreds of reps at that particular thing. So I've never built the
Mhm.
framework.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, very
Appreciate it.
interesting question though. Any other thoughts or questions on this line? Otherwise, I think that might cover it.
From me, I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Vic. Very nice to meet you, and I
Nice
appreciate
to
you
meet you.
making the time on a Sunday. Karen will pull you back into the backstage, and then we'll move to the next question. But thank you again. I really enjoyed that.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Real quick, let me show you the exact 3-pillar comprehensive retirement roadmap that takes retirees from uncertainty to peace of mind that less than 1% of retirees actually have in place. Now, I've built hundreds of these for retirees, and I can say with a high degree of confidence that these are the 3 pillars every retiree needs to have in place in order to have full confidence that they're not missing anything in their retirement plan. And I broke each of these down by the specific questions. You can see them here that each needs to be answered and the best way to answer them. Now, we've done this across pre-retirees, recent retirees, married couples, single retirees, $1 million portfolios, $10 million portfolios, all the above, and it works. And it's my gift to you today. It's absolutely free. It's in the first link in the description below this video. It's going to say free comprehensive retirement roadmap training. Just click the link, enter your info, and you'll get instant access all for free.